Welcome to Wisdom and Philosophy, a channel dedicated to deep thoughts, timeless wisdom, and ideas that help you understand life better. What the herd hates most is not a person with a different opinion, but a person who dares to think differently. They do not reject his idea itself. They reject his courage to own it alone. With these words, Schopenhauer places us directly before one of the deepest human dilemmas. Intellectual freedom is not rejected because it is wrong, but because it is a silent betrayal of the hidden order that governs human relations, the authority of the collective. The herd does not hate truth in itself. Truth does not anger them unless someone dares to possess it alone. What outrages them is not the idea, but the audacity to say, "I see with my own eyes, not with yours." This line opens vast pathways across philosophy, psychology, history, and sociology. Philosophically, Schopenhauer echoes a truth written 2,000 years earlier by Socrates, who refused to silence his questions and drank the poison to remain faithful to independent thought. Socrates was not killed because he was wrong, but because he dared to think against the current, because his mere existence exposed the fragility of the city's certainty. Thus, what the herd despises is not the idea, but the courage to carry it alone. Nietzsche reminds us of this in Beyond Good and Evil when he describes the free spirit, the human who does not belong to the herd but walks alone through the wilderness. In the eyes of the herd, the greatest crime is not murder or betrayal, but thinking outside their moral boundaries, for such thinking threatens the foundations of their shared world. The herd does not need truth, it needs conformity, the comfort that comes from saying, "We all think the same." From here, we move to sociology. Emile Durkheim, in writing about collective consciousness, argued that society builds its own structure of shared beliefs and that whoever steps outside becomes deviant. Not in the pathological sense, but in the existential sense. For society to preserve cohesion, it cannot tolerate the stranger. This explains why the independent thinker is seen as dangerous even when he is sincere. His strangeness fractures the sacred image of unity.
In psychology, Freud's theories of projection and resistance show that what we hate in others is often what we fear confronting in ourselves. Here, Schopenhauer's insight becomes clear. The herd does not hate the idea, but the reminder that thinking outside the frame is possible. They cannot bear to see a mirror reflecting the weakness of their certainty, so they break the mirror rather than face their own image. History confirms this pattern. Galileo was not tried because mathematics betrayed him, but because he dared to say the Earth is not the center of the universe. Giordano Bruno was burned not for silence, but for the courage to declare an infinite cosmos. Martin Luther was hated not for his arguments, but for the audacity to nail them to the church door. Courage is the crime, not truth. In literature, Dostoevsky's The Brothers Karamazov shows us the same dynamic. Ivan does not attack the church with lies, he attacks it with the question of freedom. The church does not fear losing truth, it fears people using their minds without guardianship. Schopenhauer's sentence, then, is not a passing remark, but a key to understanding human existence. The herd hates the different thinker not because he is wrong, but because he exposes the mechanism of obedience that defines them. Independent thought declares that the collective is not destiny, that the individual can stand alone and see the world with his own eyes. Viewed through Marx, the quote reveals another dimension: alienation. The thinker who stands apart becomes estranged because he sees what others cannot. The herd hates him because he exposes their collective alienation, reminding them that their unity is not freedom, but a shared cage. Michel Foucault deepens this by showing that power is not only in the hands of rulers, but dispersed through the fabric of society. The power of the herd is often harsher than tyranny, for the tyrant can be resisted, but the herd surrounds you everywhere, in school, in the street, in the workplace. To think differently is to face 100 smiling faces that exclude you silently. This invisible power makes independent thought dangerous because one challenges not a ruler, but an entire network of eyes and minds. John Stuart Mill saw the same truth. The greatest threat to freedom is not the state, but public opinion. Freedom of speech may be granted, but freedom of thought is what makes a human being. And this, the herd cannot tolerate. A free idea spreads like a virus, planting doubt, and doubt is the enemy of the herd. Thus, the independent thinker is punished not only by death alone, but often by isolation, because the herd fears the contagious nature of courage. From ancient myth, we recall Prometheus, punished not for error, but for daring to steal fire, the symbol of free thought. The tragic hero always pays the same price. Oedipus sought truth and lost his eyes. Christ challenged the laws of the collective and was crucified. Galileo looked to the sky rather than scripture and faced the Inquisition. History is a battlefield between the herd and the different. Even in art, the same story unfolds. Baudelaire was dragged to court, Van Gogh lived as a madman, Beethoven was mocked, Al-Ma'ari was branded a heretic, and Taha Hussein was attacked for daring to question sacred narratives. The herd does not hate beauty or innovation, it hates the eye that sees differently. Modernity has not saved us from this dynamic. It reinvented the herd. Today, the punishment is not burning, but ridicule, isolation, and digital execution. The modern herd hides behind the mask of freedom, yet punishes difference more widely than ever. Social media gave birth to a global herd, millions attacking with a single voice. The logic remains the same. It is not the idea they hate, but the courage to think outside the rhythm of the crowd. Critical theory revealed how modern rationality turned into an instrument of control. Efficiency replaced meaning. Numbers replaced values. The different thinker, who insists on asking why instead of how, becomes a threat to the entire machine. In such a world, Marcuse's one-dimensional man thrives, and the one who insists on the other dimensions, beauty, liberation, imagination, is dismissed as unrealistic. The story repeats itself in every century. In the arts, in science, in revolution, in spirituality. The herd always attacks first. Then, once the danger has passed, it sanctifies the one it destroyed. Socrates becomes father of philosophy after his death. Bruno becomes a symbol of freedom after he is burned. Martin Luther King becomes an icon after he is assassinated. The herd cannot tolerate the different while he is alive, but once he is harmless, it decorates itself with his memory. Thus, the tragedy of Schopenhauer's insight is complete. The herd survives by rejecting courage in the present and absorbing it only in the past. In truth, the path of independent thought is not a privilege but a curse. It is a form of exile, chosen only by those willing to live without certainty, without protection, without applause. Freedom of thought demands the courage to stand alone. And perhaps truth is nothing but an open wound. But it is your wound, not the herd's.
Like, share, and subscribe for more videos on mindset, psychology, and personal freedom.